Welcome to National Service Training Program 2 with a topic entitled Community Project Planning and Conceptualization. What are the learning outcomes for this chapter? One is to describe and identify the different steps in developing a project plan. Two, explain the different phases of the project development cycle. Three, identify and distinguish steps to conceptualize a project proposal and identify basic information regarding the outline of a proposed activity. Project planning. Each and every one of us at some point plans and implements a project. Whether you are a student finishing a homework, an architect designing a plan, or whatever field or profession you might choose, it can be safely said that it is imperative for us to be familiar with the steps involved in planning and conceptualizing for a project. Not only this knowledge will be able to make our tasks easier, but shall also give direction in achieving our project's success. Projects can be easily demonstrated with the aid of a systematically prepared project plan. A plan is defined as an outline which consists of strategies and specific actions or steps to be undertaken in order to reach the goals. Developing a plan is said to be the first vital steps in ensuring a project success. The project objectives that will be formulated will help you gauge how successful your project is. Given such, it is advised to compose a better set of objectives following the SMART criteria, which refers to specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bounded. Who develops a plan? Other than the group or section organizing the project, other key persons can also be requested to help prepare a project plan. These key persons may include the community members directly affected by the problem. It can be the youth, mothers, workers, etc. It can be also the influential persons from the community. It can be the community leaders, elected or not. Also, experts who have been working with the said community. These are the community organizers. What are the steps in developing a plan? A prerequisite in developing your plan is the awareness of your partner's community current condition. Through the aid of collated results of the community assessment conducted, it will be much easier for your class to identify possible projects for your partner community. The steps involved in developing a plan include 1. Establish your goal. 2. Identify strategies and activities to be taken. The initial step in developing a plan is to establish a common goal. Goals are the desired or expected outcomes of an endeavor, therefore, goals are ends or targets. These goals serve as the backbone of your plans. It provides your class the guide and direction that you need in determining the projects you intend to implement. 2. Assuming that the initial step in developing a plan is to establish a common goal. Goals are the desired or expected outcome of an endeavor. Therefore, goals are ends or targets. This goal serves as the backbone to your plans. It provides your class the guide and direction that you need in determining the projects you intend to implement. Assuming that a common goal has already been established, it will now be the time for your class to determine the various action steps you shall undertake. In identifying your strategies, action steps, make sure to include persons involved, time frame, resources needed, and expected output. Projects may be differentiated according to its purpose, objectives, target beneficiaries, duration, and scope. However, all projects are subject to undergo a similar process. This process is referred to as the project development cycle. Phase 1. Project identification. During this phase in the project development cycle, the planners undergo the process of searching for potential projects directed to achieve their goals. Phase 2. Project preparation. Once a particular project has been agreed upon, the next step would be to involve the planners to determine how and when the project will be implemented. Phase 3. Project implementation. Finally, the plans are executed during this stage. The project is carried out by the assigned persons for the target beneficiaries during the set schedule. Phase 4. Project evaluation. Some after the project has been implemented, an evaluation is usually conducted to determine whether the project objectives has been realized and if so, to what extent. Let's now move on to project conceptualization. This involves 5 elements. What are those? 1. Establishment of project objectives. 2. Project pricing. 3. Preparing the project proposal. 4. Inventory of available resources. And lastly, identification of project constraints. First, let's talk about establishment of project objectives. Every project proposed has a history behind it. Why was it proposed by the students? What were their different bases for coming up with such? Is there really a need for this kind of endeavor? These are just some of the guide questions that the class may use to fill this part of the proposal. Project objective must be clarified and agreed upon before further action can be taken by any of the two contracting parties. Next, project pricing. Basically, two factors are involved in project pricing, namely time and cost. Each class is allocated with specific budget that they need to maximize for their chosen project. Next, preparing the project proposal. The project proposal is a document wherein the major elements and details of a project as well as the areas of agreement between two contracting parties are to be included. Important sections in this particular project proposal are A. Rationale that gives the background and surrounding events which have led to the conceptualization of the project. B. Project objectives that determine what the project is supposed to achieve. C. Methodology that outlines briefly the major steps to be taken in achieving project objectives. D. Project price and source of fund that give the community a general picture of how much the project will cost and the manner of funding. And lastly, the importance of the project to the community, to the local, or to the welfare of the nation in general. Next, inventory of available resources. It is assumed that each student play a vital role in the success of a project. It is imperative that before any planning can proceed, the inventory of resources, both manpower and equipment, which the mother organization can release for the project to be taken. The students may either be involved in the preparation of the project, during the project implementation, or the project's post-assessment. This provides planners with a basis for making decisions regarding acquisition of additional resources. Lastly, identification of project constraints. Constraints create invisible barriers to attaining project objectives. Plans could miscarry if such constraints are not considered in the initial stages of project management. During the initial phase of project planning, the students should be allocated with meetings for their project implementation. Given the said setup, the students are then faced with the challenges on properly adjusting their schedule. Proposed activities must be scrutinized according to its relevance and appropriateness to the project's objectives and beneficiaries. Let's now proceed to project proposal outline, which includes basic information regarding the proposed activity. This involves 8 parts. What are those? 1. Identifying data. 2. Background of the project. 3. Beneficiary community. 4. Project objectives. 5. Project implementation. 6. Budget. 7. Project management. And lastly, 8. Project self-continuity. First, let's talk about identifying data. This involves project title. Project title should be creative and catchy without actually compromising the goals of the activity. Also, the title must at least give the class target participants an idea on what the activity is all about. B. Project site. The adapted community given to the class should be stated here. And lastly, project proponents. This include group name, list of members, and name of the faculty. Next in line, background of the project. The class may initially define the background of the project they wanted to develop and then utilize it as a guide in identifying the appropriate activities complementing the said background. Or the class may start conceptualizing the activities they wanted to perform and then start clustering it according to the suitable project nature. So these are the guide questions under background of the project. A. In general, what is the main idea of the project? B. How did the idea originate? And lastly, how did it develop and mature as a plan? Third, beneficiary community. Part of conceptualizing a project is identifying the group of individuals that will be benefiting the most on the project being proposed. It will be helpful for the initiating class to present the current condition of their target participants. So these are the guide questions under beneficiary community. A. Who shall directly benefit from the project? B. What is their socioeconomic situation? C. What is the general socioeconomic situation in the locality? And lastly, how will the targeted beneficiaries participate in planning the project? Next, project objectives. Make sure to consider the essential points while formulating your goals. Be specific. Goals broadly or vaguely stated would not be of any help to your class. Make sure your goals are specific as possible. Be realistic. There would be no sense in developing a goal of which your class knew from the very start would be impossible to accomplish. Bear in mind also that goals after have been set can be changed. In the fact, goals should be constantly evaluated to fit changes. So these are the guide questions under project objectives. A. What does the project ultimately hope to accomplish? B. What are the specific objectives of the project in terms of concrete results? Fifth, project implementation. So here, what are the techniques or procedures shall be used by the group to deliver the project effectively and efficiently? So these are the guide questions under project implementation. A. What activities are involved in the implementation? B. What is your timetable for the implementation of the project? C. How will the beneficiaries participate in the implementation of the projects? D. What is the organizational setup for the implementation of the project? And lastly, how will the project be evaluated? 6. Budget. This element will be based on the expected expenses your class shall incur in the event that the project is implemented. Please make sure to present in details the items and costs required for the project. 7th, project management. Once completed, the project must be continually managed and sustained. The project must serve as an avenue for the people in the community to continue capacity building, self-reliance, and empowerment. What we want the people in the community to know and continuously search for more effective ways of doing things. We want them to discover innovative ways of organizing their tasks and collectively pursuing them. So the guide questions under project management are the following. A. What personnel are needed to implement the project? Are they available? B. What are their job descriptions? C. Who are these personnel and what are their qualifications, working experiences? And lastly, project self-continuity. In this element, we want the people to monitor and evaluate their project. This is done so that the people can periodically discuss and act timely enough on whatever problems they may encounter in the project's implementation and the management in the future. In short, project self-continuity is intended to improve the project's implementation and management and make it more systematic and meaningful for eventual self-financing of the beneficiaries. So these are the guide questions under project self-continuity. A. What is the plan for the eventual management of the project by the beneficiaries themselves? B. What is the plan for the eventual self-financing?